Right, and restarting.
Hello, and welcome to our webinar, a practical guide to disaggregated networks. Onward, GigaOm, and IP Infusion present the keys to success. I'm Kelly LeBlanc, Chief Marketing and Product Officer for IP Infusion. I'm based here at our headquarters in Santa Clara, California. And I'd also like to wish everyone a happy Halloween and a happy Diwali today. Joining me today, I have two very special guests. I have with me Nick Keeler from Onward. Onward is an IP Infusion customer. I also have with me Daryl Kent from GigaOm, and GigaOm is the analyst firm that covers our market. Here you can see our agenda for today. Our webinar runs for 45 minutes. We will start with introductions to our speaker guests, followed by an introduction to network disaggregation with open networking. We'll also share the results of GigaOm's 2024 Network Operating System Radar Report. And then we will talk about Onward's open networking journey with IP Infusion. Then I will conduct a live Q&A with Nick and Daryl. So please feel free to ask any questions that you have at any time using the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. And we will also reserve time to answer any questions that you have during this webinar. So let's get started. I would like to have my guests introduce themselves. Nick, let's start with you. Please tell us about you, your company, and why you're qualified to speak about open networking.
My name is Nick Keeler, CEO of Onward. Onward is a competitive local exchange carrier. We specialize in closing the digital divide in rural broadband. Over the last 10 years, we've got about $115 million in grants to bring broadband to parts of California and Nevada that just didn't have any other choices. And we have recently partnered up with IP Infusion to go into more open networking, and we've been very satisfied with the results.
Okay, great. We're looking forward to hearing more about the results, and you're definitely qualified to speak about open networking, that's for sure, having gone through the journey. So Daryl, please introduce yourself and your company and why you believe you're qualified to speak about open networking.
Well, good morning, and thank you, Kelly, for the challenge and for inviting me to participate. I'm Daryl Kent, Field CTO and Analyst at GigaOm, which is a practitioner-led information technology research and analyst firm. I bring a unique perspective to this conversation as I have 50 years of experience and expertise in information technology and infrastructure, spanning both the user and the vendor side. I spent the first 15 years in telecommunications and networking as a regional carrier within the Bell system, where I worked in data center network operations as an operator, engineer, manager, and systems programmer and sysadmin. On the vendor side, I have accumulated more than 35 years of experience in product management, systems engineering, and senior technical leadership as I work with Global 500 enterprises around the world on digital transformation and IT modernization, which is what this conversation is fundamentally going to be about. I serve on the IT advisory board for Regis University here in Colorado, and I have served similarly for the University of Colorado. I've been a commissioner on the Governor's Commission on Science and Technology, as well as a founding board member of the Colorado Institute of Technology, where we were chartered to bring together industry, education, and government to improve information technology capabilities, jobs, and careers for the state. Similarly to what Nick is doing in expanding reach, Colorado is a large state, has a lot of frontier where we have to connect people. At GigaOm, I bring dual perspectives of end user and provider to align technology value and business operational value, advising and linking our clients. So I have a passion for digital transformation, IT modernization. It drives me to facilitate productive collaborations and conversations like this for organizations to maximize IT investments and embrace change. And my particular passion is making the world a better place through the leveraging of IT. So I like to think of that as partnering beyond technology. So Kelly, I trust that suits. and I look forward to sharing the insights.
Yes, really good. Thank you, Daryl and Nick and Daryl. I'm so pleased to welcome you here today. So let's get started. Okay, so today we're going to be speaking about disaggregated networks, which at IP Infusion we call this open networking. It really starts with the separation of software from hardware to give customers greater freedom and greater choice. So we do this with our OcNOS network operating system. OcNOS has over 600 modern networking features. We support over 40 hardware platforms and have qualified over 100 optical transceivers. This year, we have introduced our IP Maestro network management platform, which delivers a point-and-click GUI for OcNOS to bring really easy management to open networking. And we sell our software as well as our complete bundle with the software, hardware, and optics together with a single point of contact for 24/7 support as well as peace of mind. So as you can see here, it's the same OcNOS software that provides network disaggregation for service provider and data center use cases. We provide a single SKU for each of these use cases, from access to aggregation to core networks to data centers. And our software scales from 32 gigabits per second all the way up to over 50 terabits per second using the same OcNOS software. So we're also helping customers with transitions not only to 100 gig, but from 100 gig to 400 gig and beyond, which includes our support for 400 gig ZR/ZR Plus optics. So next up, I want to share a little bit about the results of the 2024 GigaOm NOS radar report. So here you can see this is the result of the GigaOm report. GigaOm publishes this network operating system radar report every year. The results for the 2024 report are very interesting. For us, we have been the leader and outperformer for the 4th consecutive year. And this is because OcNOS is deemed to be one of the most mature and complete and field tested disaggregated NOSes available on the market today. So we have the pleasure of having Daryl with us. So Daryl, I'd like to get your view on GigaOm's methodology for this report.
Glad to provide it. First and foremost, the fact that you can see the number of providers in this space is significantly above what we see in most of all of our other radars. And the reason for that is the importance of networking, the importance of networking as a foundation for modernization, which is thus a foundation for digital transformation. And in order to get to that modernization, you have to go to disaggregation, which is what we did in servers with virtualization. It's what we did in storage arrays. It is what we did with cloud and data centers. It allows for the software definition and of those spaces, and it allows for ease of use, ease of implementation, reach, scope, and facilitation. So we analyze on over 30 different criteria that are fundamental. Even to get on this chart, you have to have some table stakes, we call them, which are generally 5 or 6 key technical criteria. In this case, disaggregation being one of those. We also have key functional areas, which are generally 8 or 9. We have business criteria, ease of use, flexibility, scalability, which are another 6 or so. And then we look at emerging technologies like the disaggregation of system and user and hardware. In those, IP Infusion, as you note here, we say it's one of the most mature, complete, and field-tested disaggregated NOSes available. I like to rephrase that and say it's one of the more fully realized providers. And it's reflective of the position here on this particular chart. If you look at the cloud service provider or the enterprise and SMBs, you'll see it similarly positioned. And that speaks to the broad use of IP Infusion, which is one of the criteria we look at. Whether you are trying to be a mobility provider or a network service provider, or whether you're in cloud and managed service infrastructure, or whether you are trying to do it yourself, the application is similar. It is just as valuable, and it is just as useful. And so calling it the platform player of choice is not being overly dramatic at all. What the value that we see is very, very simply in terms of by disaggregating, as we heard on one of your earlier broadcasts, I think with Howard, it was forced on us with the pandemic and the supply chain issues we had. We had to separate that. We couldn't be locked in to the operating system and the hardware itself. So freedom of choice, the substantial cost savings that come with the disaggregation, the support for modern data centers, cloud-based network services, virtual routing functions, and ease of transition from traditional networking to modernization, the foundation for digital transformation and the requirement for cyber resilience today is what we analyze and why we position IP Infusion where they are, and why we can call it, and why we have noted, as you note here, one of the most mature and complete. You are rated superior in every one of our criteria, and for that, you are located where you are.
Oh, thank you so much, Daryl. I think that's a really nice setup and segue to go and drill down into this specific use case to learn more about this network disaggregation in action. So right now, let's move forward, and it's my pleasure to introduce IP Infusion's customer win story with Onward. Many of you have read our recent press release for this announcement, where we shared how Onward is a California-based full fiber broadband provider that selected OcNOS to service its business and residential customers. And so the nutshell of the press release talked about how Onward was upgrading a previous networking platform that had become problematic over time and selected OcNOS for this broadband network upgrade. So we have also published a complete case study on Onward's use case online. Nick's going to share with us some details about this use case as well. But from an IP Infusion perspective, Onward has deployed our OcNOS-SP-MPLS networking software packages for core and aggregation routing services. UfiSpace here provides the hardware platform for 100 gigabits per second core and aggregation services, as well as the fanless and temperature-hardened platforms. And really, when we were thinking about the reasons for deployment, the first things that came to mind for me was interoperability, integration with NetElastic CGNAT solution, and reduced total cost of ownership. So before we go into our live Q&A, Nick, I'd love to hear your story on your OcNOS deployment. I believe it started with CGNAT integration. Is that right? Can you share with us some details from the beginning and how it has evolved with your journey?
Yeah, so we started looking at, we got to a capacity issue where we had to start taking our multiple 10 gigs and upgrade them to multiple 100 gigs, which is a good problem to have. The challenge that we were finding, though, is that the cost on our legacy equipment, and the way we were switching everything in the core, and routing everything in the core just was so expensive. And we would buy, if we were to invest in that money, it would be kind of trapped in a pigeonhole, and it wouldn't take advantage of the flexibility that this system offered us. The other thing we were looking for is, we're a small company, and so our dollars are very valuable to us. And so we're looking for someone that helps us punch above our weight class. So we were very impressed with the support, the features, and the capacity, and the way we could easily grow. We could start off a little bit small and easily add in other components of the system. But more importantly, we found that the ease of use with the common CLIs was kind of the game changer, because it doesn't matter how good your equipment is or your software is. if you can't get your staff to buy in to actually use it, implement it, and turn it up in a timely manner, it's kind of a waste. And so we found that with your guys' platform at IP Infusion, that, kind of all three came together. We had great support. We had a great price point for capacity and the ease of growing that capacity. And then we were able to turn it up faster than we've turned up any of our other projects.
Oh, great. And I think it is very helpful to talk about how we integrated with your existing NetElastic deployment. I think when we were chatting the other day, you were telling how important it was to integrate with the CGNAT. So, and I think this was also one of the key decision factors in the beginning. So before we move into the live Q&A, did you want to share a little bit more about that?
Yeah, with IPv4 being so coveted, we run CGNAT, and we were having problems with it on our legacy equipment, so we moved it over to NetElastic. And then, once we saw how that was working, we thought, okay, who can we integrate with NetElastic and give us more flexibility and more capability?
Okay, that's great.
Nick, your story brings to mind, when you're looking at reaching out into the outer reaches of California, providing that connectivity and that capability to those users. To me, that's a noble effort. That's what I call partnering beyond technology. There's more to it than just providing infrastructure. And a market that had been defined by limited choice and few sizes fit all has now been replaced by disaggregated, cost-efficient, open standards-based, interoperable tech stacks, which allow providers like yourselves, as you stated, to punch above their weight class. It levels the playing field and allows more providers to reach into the space to allow more connectivity to more people. And that's important, because as we evolve here in our human 2.0 existence, where we are going to have digital assistants for everyone and everything, and digital assistants for digital assistants, and an auto society, if you will, an auto-operated society, it's important to have that connectivity.
I would also add to that, it's opening my ability up to say yes for all the reasons that you just outlined, right? There are times that you'd want to do something, but because of the legacy, you'd be like, "Oh, I can't really, it doesn't pan out. I can't afford to do this." But now with the ability of this disaggregation, we've actually started in the core. And now we're finding great cases and success and pushing it out to our end users. We have a company we provide all the backhaul for that is just upgraded to all 100 gig wavelengths on our network. And we're working with IP Infusion to put their devices at the edge, so we can start capturing that efficiency that we see in the core at the edge of our network as well.
Well,
Exactly.
Nick and Daryl, I love that. Punching above the weight class. So let's start into our live Q&A. I see we're also starting to get some questions from the audience, so we'll try and address everything during this session. So, when we talk about a journey to a new way of doing things, there's always lessons to be learned, and there's always things we can share with the audience who might be on the fence. So, Nick, when you went through this selection process, can you share, what did you expect the biggest challenge to be?
Well, the biggest challenge, I think, was more internal for us, of just coming to terms like, this is the way we have to do it. Because, it's kind of like that shift from in the telecom world, from a TDM environment to an Ethernet environment to an all IP environment, right? There's stages along this growth that we were a little nervous about, but we had no choice. So we started looking at different platforms, and, do they have good response time? How's their customer service? How easy is it to use this? Are we going to buy another piece of software that's so complicated that no one's going to actually deploy it because we think we know, but we don't really know? And we also then got a referral from one of your other customers as well that we work very close with and provide services for. And so everything just started checking the boxes for us. It's like, yes, this is the way we have to go. Yes, we like their support, we like their features, we like their price and their capacity, but most important, we can deploy this fast and solve our problem.
Oh, very good. And I know from Daryl's perspective, you're always often getting questions, how can we overcome any challenges? I want to go for a new way. Network disaggregation seems interesting. What can we do to overcome the challenges? So what do you think the NOS vendors can do to help customers overcome these challenges?
Well, as Nick so succinctly said, find a way to say yes. It is, and this is an enabler for finding a way to say yes. You want to, there's the challenge of lock-in, there's the challenge of supply chain. Open networking enables this broader range of vendors and the ability to tailor a network architecture to specific needs. Find a way to say yes. It prevents that lock-in. It allows the providers to select hardware and software components that meet and match and enable a continuous flow of supply. And for the end users, it lowers total cost of ownership in the doing. And you have different subscription models and payment models to fit your financial needs. So all of those are valuable in getting ways to say yes. The challenges are going to become investing in the required training to get you into a disaggregated environment. It is a different way to operate. It is a different way to think. It is a different way to acquire. So ensure that you are the NOS providers are helping their customers transition smoothly by providing that resource and that capability for them in training. Standardized APIs and documentation is another way. Standardization is good in that there's fewer unknowns and there's more knowns. There's better ways to say yes. Partnerships and broad ecosystems can overcome challenges. We can't do it all. I'm not aware of anybody on the planet that knows everything and can do everything. And there isn't any enterprise like that, and there isn't any provider like that. It is a consortium world. It is a connected world. And so having a good ecosystem is important. And then, references people that have already walked that path, that know where the obstacles are and where the shortcuts are. But you can augment that with to overcome that challenge in terms of enabling pilot programs or establishing pilot programs and even proofs of concept, proofs of value.
I would add you hit on something there that I think a lot of us telecom companies get stuck in, and that is that we get in our own way because we've done something for so long historically that we're not willing to move off that. And you really, from my perspective as the CEO, we had to change our mindset to tell me how, not no, I cannot. Right. So we don't say no anymore. We say how. How can we accomplish this? Who are our partners? What have we not looked at? Because we would be left behind if we were thinking the old way.
As an analyst, we call those losers and winners. We are moving. This is our world. We are moving to a connected world, connected everyone, connected everything. And you cannot be in the loser class and stay with the inertia that has kept you there. You have to move on. And you have to become a winner, whether you're a provider or an end user. You're an end user of this in order to provide to your customers. And it's going to require this type of capability, primarily in modernization efforts. So you're absolutely right, Nick. It is.
Yeah, in fact, I think what the statements of moving in a new direction and then having benefits such as lowering cost of ownership as a result has piqued some of the attention of the audience. I see we have gotten one question coming in asking Nick to elaborate on the total cost of ownership savings. I'll actually put it a different way and just ask Nick, did you experience any CapEx and OpEx savings with the open networking solution versus the traditional solutions? I think that would also help address the question about any total cost of ownership savings.
Yeah, so when we were looking at this and figuring that in our existing legacy equipment, we would have to upgrade to 100 gig cards that could, aggregate multiple 10 gigs into 100 gig transports. The price of one card basically was more than the 4 IP Infusion core routing aggregation switches that we put in. So that was a huge savings on us. But more importantly, the OpEx was night and day. We deployed a beautiful DWDM system that took us 8-9 months to get up and run and test it and start being able to be comfortable with it to put customers on it. This, we were able to start rolling customers in a matter of 6 to 8 weeks. So it was quicker it was more affordable on OpEx, but for me, that's not the most important part of it. It's the OpEx. Are we going to be able to use it? Are we going to be able to use it efficiency? Because if I bought it and it took me 12 months to install it, then the CapEx is not really what's killing me. It's our ability to use the stuff. And that was the biggest savings, is we were able to solve a problem and spin up more bandwidth a lot quicker than we have in the past.
You hit on two things there, Nick, that I summarize in and have done for 40 years. Price does not equal cost. And the CapEx and OpEx are important to understand, even though in this case the CapEx is also an improvement. It is not the larger part of the cost. It's the time to value. It's the implementation and the closing of the gaps of functionality that bring the value, and getting to those in the easiest manner possible, the quickest manner as practical, is where you are going to save on your total cost of ownership. And in this case, disaggregation facilitates that.
Yes, in fact, you both talked a little bit about even with training and making sure teams can come up to speed quickly. When the network disaggregation solution offers an industry standard CLI, for example, I understand you don't have to retrain your staff to start using the equipment immediately. So I think this is one of the things that a disaggregated vendor can do to remain competitive against the legacy equipment. Daryl, I'd like to get your view on, what are some other things that disaggregated vendors do to stay competitive against the legacy equipment?
Sure. Well, looking at it from an end user perspective, what the CIO is interested in is, where are the resources and what are the capabilities? And do I need them? And how do I acquire them? Do I need to do that now? And who do I trust in doing that? So to remain competitive, you have to be aware of their issues and be addressing them. Be aware of the end user's urgencies and addressing them, and then creating the trust that you are the partner that they can trust. So the way you do that is commitment to continuous innovation. Listen to what they need. Listen to what the market needs. Continually innovate and bring it into your offering so that they can realize the value on their end, and do that without impacting their operational models. Let them know where they can get the resources and the capabilities in that innovation and through you. Be user-centric is what I'm saying. Everything you do is not about you. A lot of the providers are more interested in the tool than they are in the use. And I think it should be the opposite of that. Be interested in the use, create the tool that enables that use, so you can get to what Nick called as being as yes. And you have to be price competitive. I mean, and again, price and cost are different things, but you have to be competitive in both. And part of remaining competitive is say, look, you're not going to be the pioneer. You're not going to take the arrows. Others have done it. We have done it for others. Here's how that's done. Where are the success stories? Where are the case studies? Where are the references? So competition is all about that. Innovation, user centricity, pricing, and you're not the pioneer.
And I think from our standpoint, to touch a little bit on what Daryl had said, is ease of use, right? It's change is not easy for people. And if you make it easy to make that change, what you guys have for us, you see a much higher, we've seen a higher adoption of this than we have on any other deployment we put in. And we've been very successful on our other deployments, but this was a lot quicker. The support was great and the reliability is there. So, I talk a little bit about reliability. I don't work in this box every day, but I also don't have my engineers coming into my office being like, I can't believe this just happened. And so because I don't hear about it, reliability is great.
Yeah. So I
can focus on
translate
other
that
stuff.
ease of use into user centricity. Don't put my operation at risk. Give me the resources I have, I can still use, and the capabilities I'm familiar with, which all translate into ease, I think, Nick.
Very good. Yes, and in fact, I want to take a question from the audience right now. I think this is very interesting. We have just gotten a question to explain more about network disaggregation. So from the very beginning, network disaggregation is the separation of hardware from the software to give the customers the freedom of choice. It gives them a freedom to choose, which allows many things, supply chain freedom, cost freedom. And what we're speaking about today is IP Infusion solution for network disaggregation. So we have a network operating system, and it can be installed on your choice of hardware with your choice of optics, and you can move the software around whenever you need, giving you the freedom to not only have hardware that's available when you require it, but to keep your costs competitive, because there's a broad choice of hardware that it can run on. So really, network disaggregation is the separation of the hardware from the software versus a legacy equipment where everything is packaged together in one proprietary solution. So I think let's even take a step back and start with Nick and talk about what would be your view of network disaggregation, to help our audience understand it from a user's perspective.
Well, so for us, it was isolating a single point of failure, eliminating the ability to have everything stuck in two data centers. Now I don't have as much power sitting in these two data centers. I'm able to push this out. And then as we've seen in our core with our first deployment, we started saying, well, what else can we use this for? We're about to turn up a customer where we're going to use your software and your solution to run alien wavelengths down one of our DWDM systems because we can support it better, we can turn it up faster, and that means we recognize revenue quicker. And it's all for us was about ease of use. This has made our life easier. It's taken stress off the organization. And now we're out there doing what our mission is, and that's to find other communities that we can deploy rural broadband to help close that digital divide. I don't have to worry about this piece anymore.
Yeah. Disaggregation commoditizes the hardware. And therefore lowers the cost, gives you choice. It is disaggregating the control plane from the hardware it runs on. And that was the value in virtualization for virtualization machines. That was the value in virtualized storage arrays. That's the value in virtualized networks.
And as a provider, we don't feel trapped anymore, right? I don't have to go to that one vendor that keys his optics to that certain card, and whether I'm up on the current software or if I've renewed a a software license or support contract, right? I have choices. And if we find a vendor that isn't keeping up on the hardware side, we have a choice to choose a different vendor that will better fit our needs.
Exactly.
Right. And this Q&A is really inspiring some nice questions from the audience. So let's keep rolling on this. This one's for Nick. Have you tried to launch new services on your open platform? How easy was it? Great question.
So we have just started launching new services. Prior to that, we were just trying to solve our core problem. But we've just sold a multiple 100 gig. I mean, I was thinking it's like 400 gigs, and so now we're looking at deploying your 400 gig solution in our network. And so far everything we've done with you guys has been easy.
Okay, very good. And I think that leads to the next question about fixing bugs in disaggregated solutions. So is there any advantage in regards to bug fixing with disaggregated solutions? So of course, from my perspective at IP Infusion, we are a software company. We have a full development QA team and TAC and support team to service all of our customers as fast as we can. And so one of the things that comes up in every discussion we have is, support. How are we going to make sure that we're supported with your software? So that's one of the benefits of providing full 24/7 support. First line of support for peace of mind. Anything, I know of course, you've been working with us for a while now, Nick. Anything you would like to comment on, having fixes, working with our support?
Yeah, so we've worked with your support quite a bit. You helped us bring it in. But I think really the most important thing about it, and Daryl is hit on it, the aggregation of the software and the hardware. We actually have your software running on a server in our lab. And so we're able to test your new releases in our lab before we roll it out. And that wasn't really feasible before because I couldn't afford to buy all that extra equipment. Now I can do a lot of stuff in our lab. So if we find another vendor we want to integrate with, we just bring their equipment in and we work with the APIs and your staff to see like how's it working. And that I think is the biggest key to getting us out in the market, because we can make decisions faster because we can put our hands on it and play with it.
Right. And what the two of you have just said is it's not just IP Infusion support, it's Onward support as well. And from an IP Infusion, what some of the pitfalls of what you need to look out for with open networking strategies, we've hit on a couple of them already. Insufficient support and support resources is one of those. From the radar, going back to the radar, IP Infusion, that we cover support under our business criteria. That's why it's important to do it from an operational standpoint as well as a technical standpoint. And IP Infusion is rated as exceptional there. And what Nick has just said is he's capable of doing the same thing because it is now affordable to ensure anything that gets rolled out into a customer's operation or a customer use case is also supported and tested. So the integration complexity tested, the performance in terms of not only performance and throughput, but does it deliver what we said it would deliver, right? And being able to support that is critical. So this was actually a good foreshadowing questions for some of those pitfalls. It's a good one, and it shows you the view of the audience. The view of the audience is, technology is magic. People that provide that technology are doing it for profit. What's in it for me, and how do I keep the mitigation of all of my risk as low as practical? Support is a key area.
Yes, very good. In fact, so you mentioned pitfalls. I like to also think about surprises. So Nick, I'm curious, with all that we're speaking about, were any of this a surprise or anything that surprised you that stands out as you were transitioning to open networking?
I think my biggest surprise was the ease of use. And I kind of looked at myself in the mirror and thought, why didn't I do this earlier? That was my biggest surprise. It's not as scary as it sounds. And with your guys' help and support, we were able to put it in without taking the networks down, roll off the legacy stuff, and actually pull those out and give them to a reseller to resell them as used equipment because we no longer need them. And I think that was it. It was easier than I thought. The adoption from the engineers, they were blown away. And I probably owe my buddy at that other company a dinner next time I see him because he saved me a lot of time and effort. And just the whole partnership has just made us that much better as a company because we're able to perform quicker. We're not apologizing for being late. In fact, sometimes we're early because the customer's like, really, you're ready already? How'd that happen? Well, it's because of our partnership with IP Infusion is why it's happened.
Okay, great. So for Daryl, for any companies that are on the fence, you had talked about saying yes and going for it, but is there anything else that you'd like to share during this QA about really helping companies that are still on the fence and wanting to take the next step but not sure how?
So there's some practical suggestions that I would make, and there's some forward-looking suggestions I would make as to getting off the fence. From the way I like to phrase it, Kelly, is plan today for today and today for tomorrow. What Nick just said was he did one of these phase plans. So why didn't I do this earlier? And today you must modernize. You must modernize the way you're doing your network and your network management in order to have a infrastructure that enables you to address all the needs around cyber resiliency that are in play today. And so today for today, modernization is not only important, it's critical. And moving to open networking gets you to that modernization. So if that's not enough for you, it should be. And so in order to get there, you need to look at the long-term benefits. One, it modernizes to where I can now be looking at my cyber resiliency, which I think is the most critical aspect of an operation today. It's not a matter of if, it's not a matter of when, it's a matter of how bad will it be. And so you want to be in a modernized networking paradigm in order to be able to address that as effectively as practical. That's today for today. Today for tomorrow is we're moving to a completely connected world. Everybody connected to everybody, everything connected to everything, everything connected to everybody. And it will be automated and orchestrated through digital assistants. And that is, you can't do that with siloed legacy networking. It has to be open networking. It is a networking world. So you need to evaluate the long-term benefits. How do I stay a winner as a user or as a provider? And the benefits are not only today for today, but today for tomorrow. Relative to open networking, engage in community and user groups. That'll help you get off the fence. It'll help you give a sense of relief and take away the fears and mitigate the risks. Leverage your vendors. Your vendors know what they're doing. Leverage them. And then start small. I mean, don't do any big bang. You might, as Nick mentioned, you can actually do it simultaneously. You don't have to do a rip and replace. You can do in place, and you can do that at your speed.
I think you hit on something really key there, and that was leverage the vendors, right? You're going to know quickly when you're dealing with a company how good their support's going to be at the beginning of this conversation when you roll out something and they're saying, yeah, we can do this, and here's how we do it. Here's our plan to do it. And I think leveraging the vendors like we did was very key. And then when you talked about everything being connected, I was just looking on my phone And I have 22 devices connected in my house, and I don't have one of those crazy automated house. I think I'm just a normal person. But you know, you have your washer and dryer can be hooked to Wi-Fi. I can preheat my oven on my way home. So, you know, it's here, and you know,
I
go for
smoke
it.
pork loin ribs watching football.
Yes, because
So,
your
because I
Traeger
was
now has a Wi-Fi component to it.
at Wi-Fi. Yes.
Oh, if time flies and we're now out of time, so I'd like to ask one closing question. We'll give it to Nick, and I'd like to ask you, can you please summarize the one key criteria that led you to select IP Infusion and open networking?
I think we've talked about it quite a little bit, and Daryl also hit on it. It's the cost of supporting it. It's actually my OpEx piece of it. It was easy to deploy. The support was great, and I don't have my engineers coming into my office like they did a year ago, complaining about network issues.
Oh, that's a wonderful summary. So uh, we are now out of time. So what we're going to do is, if anyone has any further questions, you're welcome to contact us and we can talk offline. We thank everyone for joining our webinar today. We'll be publishing the replay of this very nice Q&A and webinar that we've done. I really want to thank Nick and Daryl for joining us today. It's our pleasure. So until next time, again, I wish everyone happy Halloween, happy Diwali, and talk to you soon. Cheers.